should start. We are anyway delayed by 5 minutes, but we should ideally always be starting on time. Welcome to the inaugural debate of the Indian School for Design of Automobiles. I am 𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗍𝗂𝗋. I am the founder of the school, and it is indeed my privilege to have all of you here today who've taken time out to be part of the first debate. We thank each one of you, members of the industry, my friends, people from XLRI Delhi-NCR, my friends from the world of design, and also people from the media fraternity. To take time out to listen to some of the sharpest minds in the business on whether India needs a design DNA. In our midst, we also have the director of XLRI Delhi-NCR, Father Casimir. Thank you, Father. We have faculty members and students among us. Thanks a lot for taking time out to be here. We know it's always tough being a student, and here you are at least officially bunking classes to be here on this event. We have all our three mentors of the project, people who've actually been specifically initially with me and then with the rest of the team from day zero. And we are really grateful to have all the three of them here. We have Justice Indira Banerjee. She's a mentor on the project. Thank you for being here, ma'am. We will very soon have Mr. I.V. Rao. He's currently on a flight. But Rao Saab, as all of us lovingly call him, he will be here. He is Distinguished Fellow at TERI. Before that, he spent his entire career in Maruti Udyog and now Maruti Suzuki India Limited. He's one of the most respected people in the automotive industry. And we also have Gautam Sen, who's our third mentor. Gautam Da was supposed to be here, but Gautam Da missed his flight. But no fault of his. It has been squarely blamed on Air India, okay, for changing the departure gate at the last moment. So it's indeed a privilege to have all the three of you here. We are also privileged to have Dr. 𝗂𝗲𝗱𝗂𝗋, two-time member of the Rajya Sabha. Thank you for taking time out, specifically on a day like this when you are discussing one of the most crucial aspects of nationhood. They are discussing the Constitution today in Parliament. And he's an accomplished academician. He's also a supporter of design, okay, and therefore the design school, which actually allows him to take some time out from his schedule. Thank you very much, 𝗂𝗲𝗱𝗂𝗋, for being with us. Quite a few of you here were actually with us on the 4th of March, this year itself, when we announced our intent to build a truly world-class institution in the shape of India's first school dedicated to automobile design. Since then, we are making steady progress towards our target of getting the school infrastructure ready by the end of 2025, and the first batch of the master's program joining us by April-May 2026. Design, I believe, will be the final value multiplier for India on our way towards a double-digit trillion-dollar economy in the decades to come. It has the power to generate both revenues and respect for the nation on the world stage. When design in India actually combines with make in India, we will truly create in India. The India debate, which is why we are all gathered here today, will be an annual event to pick up one fundamental aspect of mobility design and decode it in our best way possible. We're not saying we'll be perfect, but we'll make our sincerest attempt at decoding it. That will provide us key strategic decisions as an industry and as a country, finally leading to inclusive and sustainable design. Hence the motto of decode, decide, design. Each debate, starting with this one, will take the form of a white paper that we shall present to all key stakeholders in the form of policymakers, regulators, activists, and practitioners. Through healthy and active advocacy, to become an action plan with clear timelines and deliverables. We are fortunate to have 8 stalwarts here with us. 2 of them are joining us online. The others are here. In fact, 3 of them are now joining us online, 𝗂𝗲𝗀𝗱 included. And we have the others here. Across various forms of mobility and consumer understanding, each making positive impact on the Indian automobile industry. They will speak for and against the motion of does India need a design DNA. To all practicing, promising and potential designers in India, as I end, I will quote from a message from the one and only Marcello Gandini that he shared with us on the 4th of March. And he says, fight to never do what someone has already done. Do not even repeat yourselves. Find solutions, perhaps difficult, but new. Welcome once again, my friends. We will now start the show. We will start the debate, but before that, we will actually have the formal lamp lighting for the event. I request Father Casimir, I request Susmit, Justice Banerjee, Rao Sahab is not here, neither is 𝗂𝗲𝗀𝗱, and Professor Rajkumar, who is the Associate Dean of Academics of XLRI Delhi-NCR, to come up and light the lamp, please. I would now request everyone to stand as we play the prayer song of XLRI that we do at the beginning of any event. I now request Sashmit to just say a few words before he heads off to the Parliament. Thank you, Sashmit.
Honorable Justice, Honorable Director, Avik, XLRI, the esteemed guests for this wonderful debate. I believe it's wonderful that today you are debating design and we are debating Parliament, and I'm going to walk right into it in the Parliament on Constitution. So debates are good, but I'll just make it very brief, and thank you, Avik, for giving me a jump up to actually say my 2 bits before I leave. I'm sorry I can't stay longer. I wish I can, but in the coming days we will. It's a very interesting tagline. Does India need a design DNA? Let me set the debate rolling that India does have a design DNA. And it's had this design DNA if you look at our temples, our sculptures, our arts, our everything that we have around us. So like this beautiful jacket that sir is wearing, that's a typical design artifact of how elephants in different forms and shapes and wildlife is actually portrayed. That's a part of India, it's a part of Indianness, it's a part of who we are. Coming to the topic of automobile design, because that is specifically what you're actually looking at today. The concern is, how should automobiles design in a certain way that becomes eco-friendly? Of course, we find a lot of designs now coming out, not only from Tesla, but primarily from Mahindra, which is again doing it. Now Tata has come up with 𝘂𝗶𝗳𝗍, so on and so forth. Various automobile entities are starting their design. The critical issue, according to me, in design is not only to look sleek, but can there be a bit of India in the design? I think essentially, what's the difference between a Tesla and a Mahindra if both look exactly the same? What's the difference between a Tata or something? You know, the idea that I want to just leave with you, a germ of an idea is, sometimes when we're trying to feel that does India need a DNA, I believe design is something that's in the DNA of every Indian. You get up in the kindergarten classes, whichever school you went to, whether you used a chalk or a crayon, you drew something. So design is a part and parcel of human life. Design is a part and parcel of Indianness. And I only want to leave you with this thought is, it's how we are able to bring it into the design of automobiles per se, because that's what the school and the center is all about. And essentially to be able to include sustainability and Indianness together. If we can integrate these two operating verticals together, I think we can come up with something which will be far different than what the world has seen so far. Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely meeting you. Thank you. God bless.
Father, just request you to give Sashmit a memento and the stole, and then you can give Sashmit.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sure there'll be many other occasions.
It's just like I was walking into it, one of my MPs was speaking, one of the MPs texting it, where are you?
Now I would request Father 𝗂𝗶𝗳𝗱 to share his thoughts with us.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a great honor and an exquisite privilege to welcome you all to the first edition of Indian School for Design of Automobiles debate, a singular event designed to inaugurate a new era in the world of automobile design. We are deeply honored that Mr. Sashmit Patra was able to spare some time to be with us. We are indeed privileged to have with us retired Justice Indrani Banerjee, Mr. I.V. Rao, who will join us shortly, and Mr. 𝗂𝗶𝗀𝗱, who will join us online, Professor Rajkumar, Associate Dean of Academics, XLRI Delhi-NCR. The topic of the debate, does India need a design DNA, is so incredibly relevant to transit from made in India to design in India, so that the Indian genius, ethos, and its rich cultural heritage could unleash a revolution in the design thinking and imagination of India. The debate is an invitation to a deep conversation to come up with a mobility solution that is sustainable, as Mr. 𝗂𝗲𝗱𝗱 mentioned, quintessentially Indian, on which the rest of the world will admire and one day covet. Is there a more powerful way to spark our imagination and creativity than a debate through the classical format of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, the very matrix that gives birth to social progress? A warm welcome to the distinguished panel featuring some of the brightest minds and iconic designers from India and abroad. I am sure that their breakthrough insights will enable us to realize our audacious dream of Indian School for Design of Automobiles at XLRI. Thank you, and a warm welcome once again. Let the debate begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. And now it is time to start the inaugural India debate. Well, it would have given me immense pleasure to introduce the moderator, who happens to be in Kolkata right now and online. I hope I do justice to his role, because I shall be the moderator today for the debate. But a little bit about 𝗂𝗶𝗀𝗱. Is 𝗂𝗶𝗀 online? So, because he's here online, so he's in our midst. He happens to be my super senior both at XLRI Delhi-NCR as well as at Maruti Udyog Limited. Okay, so 𝗂𝗶𝗀𝗱 is from the 84 batch of XLRI Delhi-NCR, and he joined Maruti in 1984. Simply, 𝗂𝗶𝗀 to many of us is a renowned automotive expert with roles as a concourse judge, author, and a design consultant. He has collaborated with prominent designers like Marcello Gandini, Tom Jada, Gerard Godfrey on several vehicle projects. A pioneering automotive journalist and writer, he has authored multiple award-winning books on automotive design, including Marcello Gandini, Maestro of Design, the Bertone Collection, Tom Jada, Master of Proportions, Lamborghini at the Cutting Edge of Design, and When Wedge Had the Edge. 𝗂𝗶𝗀𝗱 resides in Paris, right now in Kolkata, as you can see. He is a mentor of the Indian School for Design of Automobiles, along with Rao Saab and Justice Banerjee. And over to you, 𝗂𝗶𝗀𝗱, to share a few words before we start the debate.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I'm speaking into... Okay, great, fantastic. So, my apologies to start the afternoon by apologizing for having missed the flight. It was, well, anyway, one of those things. There were 23 others, if that's any consolation. When they changed gates, somehow we seem to have missed the announcement, whatever. And though the flight hadn't taken off, they wouldn't accept us. I think Air India overbooked and that was a good excuse to bump us off, whatever. Anyway, it's really a pity. I'm sorry and I couldn't make it, and really wish I could, and I would have really liked to have been there, met up with everybody, and to have obviously participated directly in a topic which is dear to all of us. We will, of course, wait to hear from everybody else. What I just want to, as I was going to be the moderator, and I wouldn't have an opinion on this matter, at least I shouldn't be. I may have an opinion, but I'm not expected to share that opinion, at least to start with. Maybe I will not again go ahead and discuss too much on that, but I would suggest that the floor should be open, and I think there are pros and cons. I do know that before we set out on this discussion, that most people would do think that India should have its own design DNA. My question is that necessary? And is that an important factor today, given the fact that the automobile industry has evolved considerably? Once upon a time, it was important for a country to have a design DNA. With globalization, maybe that would be a handicap. That's what I believe. So I open with that point of view, and I would let then after that Vic to take over, and let's have the first speaker probably coming forth.
Thank you, 𝗂𝗲𝗱. Thank you very much. Stay with us as long as the internet allows you. Now I would request the speakers to please join us here on stage, going by the names here. Anand Sharma. Anand, thank you so much. Anand is the founder of one of India's leading automobile design studios, Studio 34. Studio 34 is based in Manesar. Anand stays in Delhi. Then we have 𝗂𝗲𝗱 Singh. 𝗂𝗲𝗱 is the big man, the boss man of design at Maruti Suzuki India Limited. Okay, then we have 𝗗𝗲𝗀𝗃𝗃. He is the head of design, the boss of design at 𝘂𝗲𝗄 Energy. 𝘂𝗲𝗄 definitely is one of India's most respected automotive startups over the last 1 decade. Sudhir Sharma, old friend of mine, one of India's best product designers. Okay, he doesn't want to share with people, but Sudhir is the man who designed the ICICI logo. Okay, Sudhir is the man who created the first Bajaj Pro Biking retail format, and he's done lots of other stuff. He's just written he's compiled his articles into a book, which I think all of you should get a chance to dive into. And then we have Satya Seelan. Satya, to all of us, he's the big man of design of Ashok Leyland. Okay, very, very interesting career, and thanks a lot, Satya, for taking time out. Satya has come in this morning from Chennai, Sudhir from Pune, Bikash from Bangalore. 𝗂𝗲𝗱𝗱 is in Kolkata, so we're truly integrating the country. And then we have with us Jean-Paul Oyono. JP, are you there online?
He's there.
Okay, JP, can we see you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm here.
Can you see me, JP? There he is. So then we have Jean-Paul Oyono. If you could just increase his the viewing box, maximize it. Yes, there is Jean-Paul Oyono to you, a man who's done some amazing work in his career. Okay, he's worked with BMW for many years, with Zagato. Now he's an independent designer, lives in Geneva, and JP also happens to be a member of the Academic Council of the Indian School for Design of Automobiles. Thank you, JP, for taking time out for this. And then we have Mr. Ravi Bhatia.
Hello, good to be here.
Yeah. Mr. Bhatia, or Bhatia, most of us as Maruti. Okay, he happens to be an ex-boss of mine. I had one of my best time in Maruti actually working under him and with him. Mr. Bhatia is now the managing director of 𝗂𝗲𝗀 in India. 𝗂𝗲𝗀 is a leading organization when it comes to consumer understanding and analytics. So I thank each one of you for taking time out to be here. 𝗂𝗲𝗀𝗃 is based in Mumbai. He couldn't make it because his daughter came in this morning. And obviously I didn't want any family conflicts happening because of our debate. So thank you very much. The debate is a classic debate format that we've seen in schools and colleges, that we've ourselves possibly experienced. So each of them would speak for 7 minutes, okay, either for the motion or against the motion. I have the traditional bell, which many of us might have forgotten how it looks, okay, but this is what it looks and sounds like. So I shall ring the bell once when 5 minutes are over, and when your 7 minutes are complete, the bell shall ring twice. And I would, alternate between people speaking for the motion and against the motion. So without much ado, I would call the first speaker, who would be speaking for the motion, Anand Sharma, who will be speaking for the motion, a transportation design graduate from IED Torino, Italy. He is the design director and co-founder of Studio 34 Design Art Private Limited. With global experience at Fiat Central Steel and mentorship from industry stalwarts, he co-founded Studio 34 in 2010, which is now the leading automotive design studio in India. Over to you, Anand. Your 5 minutes. You want to speak from the podium, or you want to speak from your seat? Up to you. Completely up to you.
First of all, thank you. Many congratulations to you for organizing this wonderful debate. I think, as Gautam sir rightly mentioned, this topic is very, very close to all of our hearts. And being an automobile designer working in India for the Indian market, this happened to be one of our core subject of research while we started our journey. And why we chose to work on this, because coming across the Indian consumer, the way they perceive products, services, the way they make decisions in investing in something, that created a big question for us, that what is that makes them choose certain products the way they are, the way they operate, the way they are designed. So we went into understanding all of this, and we came across a very important point, that our society, our civilization has evolved in a very, very different fashion, compared to Europe, America, Japan, other countries. And likewise, we have different ways of doing things in India. So there's a very strong cultural influence in the way we want things to be for us. Things which are designed or developed somewhere else in the world, obviously they are done with a very thoughtful process, but at the end, does it fit the scenario where it is going to operate? The user environment. So I feel it's high time that we set a strong cultural narrative about Indian aesthetics, Indian culture, its heritage, and translating all of that, generations of learning, and bringing it into a core design DNA, or we may call it Indian design philosophy, that can help us design new modern products, modern services, in line with the needs of the Indian users. So that's my take on Indian design DNA. Thank you so much.
Anand, you still have 3 more minutes to go. You can take your time.
Okay. I thought it would be an intro, then we'll talk in detail about it, so it's okay. So at the same time, we as Independent Design Studio, we started working on this extensively as a subject, and in fact we started researching that if we have to literally take this subject into account and we have to translate that understanding into tangible products, how do we actually go about it? So we went into understanding all the different aspects of our culture, touching upon food, fabric, architecture, mythology, spirituality, language, what not is there. So we tried to, touch base on each and every aspect of it. Obviously, it's a very vast subject. It's a non-conclusive kind of a subject. But yes, still we try to learn from it, and then we started translating those into practical ideas which can be implemented onto some real-time machines. So we took automobiles, we took transportation systems, we took stations, communications. So there are many ways that we can actually start implementing these ideas, and we actually had a privilege of working with one of the major projects which is underway right now, which is the Shinkansen project, which was actually kind of a starting point for us, where we were literally able to translate an idea of bringing a cutting-edge technology from Japan, and now the technology has to be offered to the Indian audience, the Indian users. So how do we go about it? We actually broke it down into each and every segment, as in the way the food is served, the way the train is going to look, the way the interiors are going to come out to be, the overall experience part of the train is going to be, the communication stations are going to be for the end user. So we detailed out each and everything, and we translated that into a practical project which could be taken into account while the things are being done for the Indian market. So this is one way we took it as a step towards translating these ideas into practical executions, and I hope that the same could be done in many ways. Be it automobiles, be it food, fabric, anything that we do, we can start integrating these ideas and start showcasing this cultural reflection through all these mediums. Yeah. Thank you.
I shall ring the ceremonial bell. Thanks a lot, Anand. Very interesting, let's say, insights on how you're actually taking various aspects of Indian culture and life and livelihood and incorporating them in absolutely new, ultra-modern formats. I now go to the next speaker, Mr. Ravi Bhatia. He's a senior automotive industry leader with extensive experience at many major OEMs, including Maruti Suzuki and Fiat Chrysler. He's currently the president and the board member of 𝗂𝗲𝗱 Dynamics India, a global leader in automotive business intelligence. With over 30 years of experience in the automotive sector, Mr. Bhatia is at the forefront of innovation at the intersection of automotive technology, data, and AI. Mr. Bhatia will speak against the motion. Sir, or as I call you, boss, your 7 minutes start now. You're on mute. We can't hear you even now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I think I'm switching off the video for the interest of ability to transmit the communication. Congratulations, Avik, for this event, and I am an admirer and an ex-colleague of your initiatives, and you are building something together with XLRI into existence, which is the need of the industry. So congratulations on that. I had a choice to speak for and against the motion, but I went with my conviction and I chose to speak against the motion. I will start my submission now. So our industry is forced right now with a technological, tufan, as they call it, because there are forces which are acting on the industry. The industry is spending about 145 billion annually on research and development, and most of this money is focused on the subjects of safety, autonomy, and electrification. The proposition for this debate to incorporate Indian design DNA isn't just impractical, it's impossible. I'll give an example of Tesla, the world's most valuable automobile company. Their success, not many may know it, it's not really very public. It came from achieving a 0.208 drag coefficient through pure technological functional design. No market-specific variant, no cultural element, yet they lead globally, even in markets markets with strong cultural identities like China. This isn't coincidence, it's the automotive industry's future manifested. And to understand why this makes cultural design impossible, let's look at technological revolution which is reshaping our industry. Let me show you why cultural design elements are fundamentally impossible in a modern vehicle. By 2030, 40% of the car's value will be powertrain, 40% will be in its software. Vehicles today are starting to get designed inside out, which is software and sensors dictating the form of the vehicle, standardizing hardware platforms for over-the-air updates, global software compliance, demanding uniformity, sensor integration determining every curve, and 20 plus sensors which require precise placement. Now simultaneously, consumer needs are also evolving rapidly. Interior design is being revolutionized by technology, simple straight services for screen integration, multiple interface requirements, AI-driven personalization, and quiet, distraction-free electric vehicle experiences. We are seeing shifting mobility patterns, which is rise of ride-sharing platforms, more number of trips happening on the ride-sharing platforms than on personal platform, changing ownership models, need for adaptable interiors, and age-inclusive design requirements. These aren't cultural preferences, they are universal technological imperatives. And these imperatives directly shape our manufacturing reality, which makes an even stronger case against cultural design. Our component industry success tells a compelling story. Through global integration, standardized design, universal quality benchmarks, and interoperable platforms and scalable processes, when we look at the platform economics, one global platform is generating 50 plus models worldwide. It's looking for 40% cost reduction, it's looking for 30% more speed, and zero room for market-specific design elements. Adding India-specific design elements would disrupt established manufacturing processes, increasing tooling costs, reduce economies of scale, and compromise our growing export potential. While these manufacturing constraints are compelling, the market evolution globally, especially in China, offers even more convincing evidence. Even China, with its massive market, proves our point. They are leading in innovation, zero-gravity seats, experimental autonomous features, translucent body panels for sensors, advancing lighting communication. Their success comes from focusing on technological innovation, embracing global design standards, prioritizing functional requirements, and abandoning the cultural elements. This explains why Tesla, with its pure functional design, leads the premium segment in China, maintains identical global design, achieves premium pricing, and proves universal design appeal. Looking at the commercial vehicle sector, where function absolutely must dominate form, we are even more evidence. In commercial vehicles, where India has unique needs, loading patterns demand functional design, cost economies drive decision, maintenance priorities shape choices, and efficiently determine success. Every rupee spent on cultural design diverts from critical safety requirements, necessary EV infrastructure, required manufacturing upgrades, and essential technology integration. As we look ahead, these business imperatives align perfectly with where the industry is heading. The automotive industry is racing towards full electrification, autonomous capabilities, connected ecosystem, and shared mobility solutions. These require aerodynamic efficiency, sensor integration, interior adaptability, and global platform capability. By 2030, India aims to be one of the global automotive hub. When software defines 40% of a vehicle value, when Tesla leads globally through pure functional design, when even China focuses on innovation over cultural identity, the path is clear. The future of automotive design isn't about where a car comes from. It's about how efficiently it moves, how safely it protects, how intuitively it operates, and how sustainability it performs. Every rupee spent on cultural design elements is a rupee diverted from our future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, boss. That was really very compelling. And as always, when you cite all the logic and the rationality and the data, you at least for a certain point of time can't but completely support you in what you say. And interestingly, you talk about functional design, the fact that provenance plays no role, and in an increasing world of globalization, we shouldn't actually be, if I could say, wasting our time on trying to create things which, let's say, are more Indian or more localized. On that note, I'll go to the third speaker, 𝘂𝗶𝗱𝗱. 𝘂𝗶𝗱𝗱 is an alumnus of the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, from where he has a master's degree in product design. He actively supports the Create in India initiatives and is currently the Senior Vice President, Design and Modeling at Maruti Suzuki India Limited. Having joined Maruti more than 2 decades ago, he has worked on many best-selling products, including the Esteem, the WagonR, and the Alto. Under his creative direction, Maruti Suzuki Design has delivered bestsellers like the Brezza, the France, and the Desire. An avid cyclist and a fitness fanatic, as you can make out, 𝘂𝗶𝗱 resides in Gurgaon. Over to you, 𝘂𝗶𝗱. Your 7 minutes start now.
First of all, big congratulations on having this debate. I think the whole India team deserves a really special compliment, especially as a designer. I feel that design is all about debates and open dialogues, which really make this field so rich and with vivid ideas and thoughts and different ways of working. Because in design, there's never 1 + 1 2. I always tell design 1 + 1 can be anything but 2. So yeah, thanks for this. And congratulations to the entire India team, who is behind this effort. I'm sure the entire team, XLRI team, who is behind this effort. Is amazing to be a part of this debate, first of all. Coming to the topic, I'll tell you about my journey in design and how I have evolved myself as a designer and what I used to feel and how over the years, now 25 years I've spent in this field and what I've seen over the years. When I joined design at ISC, I had a very strong, I entered the institute and I saw a very strong approach of a very global mindset, yet very Indian way of looking at things globally. The faculty, my professors, especially Professor 𝗂𝗶𝗂𝗱, who was my mentor in design, he himself was a great believer of a global design. He felt that universal design or global design is very important, and we should not waste efforts and time in unnecessary putting aesthetics into things where you don't have to. So, always we debated on this point, and then there was this one event which really changed my perspective. Well, we had a team from, if I'm not wrong, Sweden, I forgot which design college was that. There was an exchange program, and this team of 5 designers came to ISC, and they were doing research on usage of aluminium in India. And their job, their research topic was that we should try to use more aluminium in our mobility solutions. That was the kind of brief they got from the university. And these 5 designers who are here, and they were going all over India and looking at products and looking at different solutions. And so they zeroed down onto these trucks. That time we didn't have many small trucks, but they zeroed down to this as a mid-sized trucks, and they said that that's a big potential. That's a big market to capture. And currently we use iron, wood, and a lot of materials which don't last and which are not really good. Aluminium can be a great way of building, like coach building, bodies of these trucks, and and it will work very well. And they did a lot of analytics, a lot of research. They went around and talked to some companies or some, I don't know, did some their own research, and they came out with a solution. Okay, this is the kind of structure we make. They did some initial analysis and proposed that. They did a presentation, and everybody was saying, "Wow, okay, what a great effort," and people were happy. And then after that, they were supposed to make a prototype. So obviously, their kind of work was slightly extended for two months, I think, if I'm not wrong. And they made a prototype. And when they actually built a prototype, and they were running, and they were asking these fleet operators or some companies where they kind of partnered with and said, "Okay, why don't we try this?" They realized that thing doesn't work, and there were a lot of failures, and it was not working. Working means there were failures and it was breaking down and stuff. And they were shocked. They said it has to work. We did analysis, we have done research. Things work. So they were kind of taken back. How come a lot of analysis and things can go wrong? So then they said, okay, maybe we really need to go and meet the end users. How things are being used, because they were doing research with companies and maybe some consultants and all. But then they actually went to the market and saw how the product was being used. And what they realized was, again, I'm saying 25 years back, is that there is a rated loading capacity of the vehicle, but actual vehicles were loaded beyond the loading capacity. Because depending on the need, Indians were flexible, We were never rigid, okay, my truck has suppose 1 ton capacity and I only do this much. We, as a culture, we as a way we work, were very flexible, and we said, oh fine, maybe it's 1 ton, but I can load a little bit extra, and I can do 1.5 tons. And they said, no, this is wrong, this can't be happening. But they said, no, this is India, this is a country which is evolving and growing, and there are needs and people need to be flexible. And that's why the thing which was designed for 1 ton didn't work. So 1.5 tons. They said, okay, then probably this is not the right material, and probably the materials people are using, the wood and iron, the combination still works, still probably makes sense. And finally it was non-conclusive. I don't know afterwards what happened, but then they also looked at some alternate products of some stools and all, totally different categories, because just to make sure that there's output to the project. But, the interesting learning for me was that, we come with assumptions. But the biggest thing we forget is that we are, at the end, cars are driven by humans. There's a strong human perspective behind cars. And once we have that human perspective, we can't really let go of the fact that there could be Teslas of the world out there who are designing cars as their softwares or computers and mobile phones. But when humans interact with any device, they need that emotional connect with them. They need that strong bond that has to be there, that they need to live with that product, and especially as Indians, for us the product never dies, That's what we say, product has a life to it. But even after that, there's a second life, there's a third life, there's a fourth life to the product in India. So design has to be thought deep, and Indian thinking, Indian way of approach, or where Indians need to look at products, I think that needs to be really studied deep. One mistake I've seen, also as a designer, when I talk to young designers, is people think, okay, Indianness is all about, they put some motif somewhere, paisley motif somewhere, or they put some color somewhere, no, this is India. No, I don't think that's India. India is about understanding Indians. And we as Indians are very different from Europeans, the Japanese, Americans, all the cultures are different. Even China. China at one point was all sedan market. Japan had K cars. Europeans loved their proportions and, the absolutely beautiful shapes, but which are very proportioned, but they could be boring for India, because Indian customers are dynamic. We need excitement, we need change. So I think design has to look beyond the very obvious, I'll say, cosmetic way of looking at Indianness of design, and go deep into understanding user needs. And if you go deep, I think India has some amazing set of requirements. Customers are different. They really push companies to think differently. And I think that push is what makes design creative, and that push will make a design DNA for India. That's what I think. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Saurabh. Very interesting. I mean, you've talked about the thing of incorporating flexibility. And you asked a very interesting question, which is, how can analysis ever go wrong? Okay, and analysis can go wrong when you actually have assumptions which do not have too much of a connect with applications or the user needs, as you said. So yeah, again, when I listen to you, I move away from what Bhatia ji said, and I tend to go towards your side, because that again sounds equally compelling. Which brings me to the man on my left, 𝘂𝗲𝗀𝗶𝗴𝗍𝗂. He's a design leader at 𝘂𝗲𝗊. He's playing a key role in helping revolutionize India's electric mobility landscape, and I completely accept that, and I laud that, because 𝘂𝗲𝗊 really is one of the most respected mobility brands, irrespective of whether you are legacy or ICE or electric. From contemporary world-class two-wheelers to intuitive apps, his innovative designs and commitment to crafting powerful consumer experiences are actually at the heart of 𝘂𝗲𝗀's success. Over to you, Bikash. Your 7 minutes start now.
Thanks a lot, Avik. I think it is one of the topics which, to be honest, even within the design team, we have been discussing about it quite a lot. And I think I have gone to and fro on it, and I think ultimately settled on talking against the motion on this. And yeah, I think it is about the core reason what I feel just chasing design DNA is missing is that I think we need to look beyond it, and I think what I am looking at is something which, like, I'm calling it as design singularity, right? So one of the key things which I feel why just chasing design DNA does not work is because, one, India is very diverse, right? And it's a super diverse country across multiple different geographies, social, like economical, everything out there, right? So if you want to encompass into a single design DNA that cuts across multiple things, I think it will just dilute the richness that we have at every single level, right? And we are a country, we have like every diversity of climate and everything out there, right? So, and all of these things influences what the output really comes out as. So I think just one single thing does not encompass that. The second is that generally association of past with respect to design DNA is a very big part, right? And I feel like if you have to connect to it, I think a lot of our past is defined by a bit of colonialism and as well as a bit of jugaad on a lot of stuff, which I think we have moved ahead from, right? So I think it's about looking forward. And the last being that if you are being very consumer centric, today we are living in a world where it's about hyper globalization, right? Like where the boundaries of every single space is sort of getting blurred with respect to what we as consumers consume in terms of getting aspirations or whatever we're consuming, and then our requirements and needs are changing accordingly, right? And that would require you to compete now at a much more bigger and global scale. Now, for all of this is where I believe that this point of not the design DNA, but something which I'm calling as design singularity, which means that looking it to be much more future forward, right? Like thinking about where it obviously becomes a design is like unanimously there for every single thing, but looking at it more from how do we take a step ahead in terms of being future led and thinking from what could come ahead of us and not looking at through the past, which is there. Obviously consumer centricity is part of it. The other thing is that it's also about with I think the traditional way of looking at design DNA, one thing is that you settle on something which is already present, and eventually someone else comes and disrupts you, right? And I think it's about how can you disrupt yourself and view future looking from that perspective so that you can disrupt yourselves before anyone else does it to you. And the other last part being that it also allows us to embrace how the world is shaping. And today, to a great extent, purely from a technology point of view, I think India has taken a great leap compared to any other place in the world, and especially even if you look at the electric vehicle technology, I think we are leading quite ahead in the two-wheeler space at this moment, right? And I think if we have to keep that lead in place, we have to think it in a more integrated, global, future, forward-looking format, and that's where, like, if the traditional thinking design DNA part of it sort of breaks for me. And I think, yeah, that's why I feel like we should look beyond just a design DNA.
Thanks, Vikash. You still have 2 minutes to go, so you can use it later. Okay, so I'm creating like a kind of a bank. So Anand has 3 minutes to go, you have 2 minutes to go. But what you said is interesting again, because you're looking at design singularity, and that's again a very powerful thought. And it makes me question as to what, when we use the word design DNA, what we really mean by DNA. Does DNA necessarily mean falling back on your past, or does DNA actually mean readying yourself for the future? So maybe the way we even define DNA, we always look at DNA as, oh, my temples and my monuments and my historical books, and and my elephants. Okay, so it's not. It may not actually be that. Okay, it may actually be the way I, as a nation, and I, as a people of varied cultures, actually look forward into the future. Okay, so on that note, I'll come to the next speaker, who's actually going to speak for the motion. 𝗂𝗲𝗱𝗄𝗏, or JP, as many of us call him. He's an Art Center College of Design graduate. He's an industrial designer specializing in mobility. He's worked with BMW, Alfa Romeo, Bugatti, and Zagato Design. He's worked on cars like the BMW 3, 5, 6, and the 7 series, the Alfa Romeo GTV or the Brera. He also develops new niche platforms for vehicle design and consults globally. JP resides in Geneva, as I mentioned earlier. And over to you, JP, your 7 minutes of fame start now.
Thank you, Ali, for the invitation. Do you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in this very interesting debate. So for me, I'd like to say that first of all, globalization is really nothing new. I think that if you ask the peoples of the Americas or people on the African continent, they'll tell you that globalization started in the 1400s and has actually a very nefarious background to it. So I think that today's globalization, of course, thanks to IT, has somewhat of a more grassroots aspect because people have the ability to choose things. But I still think that I would still put the let's just say the danger aspect of it, especially an accelerated globalization in the background. So for me, if we talk about DNA, for me, DNA is basically raw information, and that raw information takes life in a genetic material kind of an ecosystem. I mean, basically what it is that it's basically two making one. I mean, it's basically parents giving both their DNA to their child, and the child carries both parents' DNA for the future. So it's something living. It's really not something static. And I really think that if we talk about globalization today, we can't talk about globalization without talking about the current global recession or global meltdown. And for that, I think that if you consider that, especially Indian design DNA carries within itself, the 𝗂𝗲𝗀, basically frugal design and frugal design thinking. I think that actually India can play a key role in the global design community, especially in terms of innovation. So this is kind of how I see it, and I think that especially if we consider how we think as designers, I mean, basically the cultural DNA is always present in the subconscious, and the subconscious plays a key role in the innovative and the creative process. And even in the conscious analysis for everything that has to do with practicality, I mean, that's basically where 𝗂𝗲𝗀𝗱 can play a role. So for me, this is why I support the motion, because I just really think that even if you look at brands, I mean, brands, we talk about globalization, but if you look at, for example, Italian brands, they have a strong national and which is a national identity which is linked to their brand identity. So it's actually both. And as the previous speaker mentioned, he's talking about singularity. So yes, but singularity is nothing neutral, and it doesn't come from it doesn't come from anything ex nihilo. So it's always a conjunction of different things, and I think DNA, being a living thing, can definitely play a role even in a singularity. So this is my position.
Thank you, JP. You still have 2 minutes in your bank, so at some point of time, okay, you can dip into it and say a few more things, post a few other speakers have spoken. But interesting, when you talk about the dangers of accelerated globalization, it's a very unsettling thought. And but at the same time, what's comforting is that the DNA is a genetic ecosystem which is living and not static. Right? So it's actually a dynamic ecosystem that we need to create, and that's possibly what we are saying when we talk about a design DNA. You took up an interesting, you took the analogy of how the national identity of Italy has a very strong rub-off on the brand identity of some of the most iconic Italian brands. On that note, I'll move on to my friend on the right, Sudhir Sharma. Sudhir, with over 30 years of experience in design and branding, is the founder and CEO of INDEA Design. It's a brand transformation consulting firm. He's the creative mind behind the branding of iconic Indian companies, like I mentioned, like ICICI Bank, Bajaj Auto, and 𝗂𝗏 Mobility. He's also authored the book Design Attitude. It's an insightful compilation of his editorials from the Pool and the Design India magazine. The second edition of or let's say part 2 of the book is also due very soon. Sudhir resides in Pune. Over to you, Sudhir, your 7 minutes.
Hello. Can you hear me? Okay. So thank you for this, and I think the topic it's an eternal topic. We've been discussing this since we were in design schools, and we're still discussing this. What I found interesting is 2 things. Does India need a design DNA, or does design need a India DNA? I think these are 2 separate things. So what I'm going to debate about is that, does design need a India DNA? Design is a much newer thing than India's been. So I would basically talk about, and my context is automobile design. I would say that probably what I'm going to mention is not true of all kinds of design. So it's not a universal that design and India can't be equated in that sense. I'm just going to focus on automobile design. So while thinking about this topic, and I mentioned this on my email, that I'm on both sides. Very difficult to be on one side. But I tend to be more against the motion that India doesn't need, or a design doesn't need a India DNA when it comes to automobiles. So I'm going to talk about that. I was looking for a very effective framework in which I could explain everything, and I found one, and I'm very happy to discuss that, because what Ravi has mentioned and what all of us have so far mentioned can be put into that framework very nicely. There's something called a design ladder. I'm not sure all of you would be aware of that. Design ladder is a 4-step ladder. At the bottom of the ladder is the first step, which is called no design, a place where no design exists. I've been using this framework to explain careers, to explain various domains of design, various progressions. So at the lowest level is there's no design existing, which in India, you know what we call that? Jugaad. We call that Jugaad. And we take a lot of pride into that. But I'll tell you, Jugaad is not what we should be proud of. Because Jugaad is mostly organic. It's not something, it's not a conscious effort. It is mostly an activity done, it's a make-do. When you don't have a structured resource allocated to something, it's not something industry can use. Jugaad is not something industry should be proud of or should be using. A lot of safety issues, a lot of material issues that I'll just talk about that. The second step is aesthetic. When design is seen as to make something beautiful and more relevant to a local or a regional concept. So the second step is aesthetic. When you say, और ज़्यादा अच्छा बना दो, खूबसूरत बना दो, local बना दो, इसमें color वैसे डाल दो, motifs वैसे डाल दो, that is aesthetic. Third is when you start seeing design as a process. How do you do things? See, this also explains design at various levels. Design है क्या? All of us keep thinking that design, what does design actually mean? Design as a process in an activity, the way we do things. A lot of us have spoken about this, that design as a process is different, is difficult because it's not really visible, right? Process happens in the background. And the fourth step is design as a strategy, as a function of business or a larger dominance in some way, right? So there are four of these activities. Now if you actually see, the lower you are on the ladder, which is the jugaad or the no design, and then you have this as strategy, the lowest there are certain kinds of design which are extremely locally relevant. And you need a lot of culture and Indian DNA into that. What is that? And they're mostly visual, right? So it will be textiles, it will be food, some part of architecture, a lot of rituals. What do we do, right? How do we behave with each other? The language, all of those parts. And slowly when you move up the stairs to the strategic level, you realize that it's pure science. It's more materials. It's more the way things function and the way we economize in terms of technology, more and more technology. So there's more culture at the lower end and there's no culture at the top end. This is how this whole thing works. And putting automobile on that ladder, you really feel that we do have a whole lot of automobiles which are functioning at the jugaad level. You know, Saurabh mentioned a one-ton vehicle will definitely carry 1.5 tons in India. Is that what we want? Is that Indian? It is Indian. But is that what required? I don't know. You see a two-wheeler in India, 2 people are supposed to sit. But no company in India makes a two-wheeler for 2 people. It's always made for 3 people, 4 people. You go out 10 kilometers from the city where there are no police people, you'll always find the whole family. 5 log baith ke ja rahe hain uske upar. That is our design DNA. But it is compromising safety. It is compromising economy in a certain way. So, within this framework, I tried to explain the automobile scenario for us. So, design is, on actual sense, what we normally call design, not what normal Indians would call design. Design is extremely deeply intertwined with culture, ethos, values, aesthetics, and all that. So, but products like automobiles, cultural influence is mostly in embellishments and in details. And if it is a large screen, it is probably the language and the way the UI on the screen will work. Right, so let me quickly run. I was also thinking, you know, design of rockets, space, design for space. I don't think we'll think of culture there. There is no space for culture or a DNA of a country coming as pure science. And I think automobiles are moving into that direction. But yes, I feel that finally, I feel Indian automobile design needs to focus on affordability, safety, and quality for masses. That would probably be an Indian DNA, which is not something which is going to be very visible. Cultural influences could remain subtle, can be highlighted only in premium offerings. Now think of it, if we are adding what is Indian culture really, the embellishments which we have, if we actually have them in their true sense, they are extremely expensive. They're more craft-based, they're more hand-based, they're extremely expensive. They are good for luxury products. For mass, not possible, but just because we want to introduce for mass, we'll end up doing a parody of culture onto those things. So I don't think we need to do that. We need to be authentic. Authentic export of Indian design should be very, very expensive, if it is Indian design, right? So I feel cultural influences can remain subtle or can be only for premium offerings in niche markets. The Indian DNA in automobile should prioritize functionality, innovation over superficial cultural elements to ensure relevance and success in both local and global contexts. I really feel that in that letter, if you see, we are moving more and more towards the science, technology, and I think that's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudeep. Very interesting, especially firstly explaining to all of us the 4 principles of the design ladder, and actually I think it was a big poke at the industry saying that we are at the level of jugaad or aesthetics. So you have a few enemies for some point of time on the stage right now. But what you said is very interesting, talking about affordability, safety and quality for the masses. As long as we are meeting that, design can be global, design can be universal, and the cultural context can possibly be left to just embellishments and certain superficial items. Which brings me, and because so many people have been talking about your sector, Satya, for all this while, everybody's talking about trucks and buses and small trucks and large trucks. So our last speaker for the afternoon, Satya Seelan. Satya, to all of us, he has a master's degree in industrial design from IIT Delhi and has been working as an automobile designer, mostly in commercial vehicle design for almost 25 years. Currently, he is the Vice President of Design and Styling at Ashok Leyland. He also leads Siam's Design and Styling Group, and he has earlier worked with Tata Elxsi, TVS Motors, General Motors and Tata Motors in leading design-related roles. Over to you, Satya.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, 7 minutes is very less to me.
Take your time. You can
Anyway, yeah, this is a wonderful opportunity to talk about the topic that I'm dealing for more than 20 years now. Okay, it's very difficult for me to actually explain aesthetics and design to a veteran people like the Honorable Judge is there, Reverend Father is there, and most of you are entrepreneurs and many people. So I have to be a little more simple in terms of design. I don't want to talk very complex matters. Now, let's see what is DNA. DNA is nothing but which carries your genetic information across generations of the generation. And the DNA is a basic framework of your metabolism. Your skin, your eye, your bone, and everything. The DNA is there. Whether you like it or not, the DNA is what specifies what are you as a physical living thing. Now, whether you have it or not, now we are asking in 2024, what does it mean? We don't have it in place. So at this point of time, somebody is saying it is not necessary, and I am here to say, it is the most necessary thing. And I agree with the opponent people, we are, surpassing the technological advances, particularly the sensors. I may ask this question, why sensors? So I have a car which is an ADAS, which is a German car, which is luxurious car, whatever. It's more than a crore. But the thing is, it has all the damn thing which is a technological superpower. Okay, if you have a change lane, this guy says, don't go. How can I drive in India? I have sensors 360 degree, but suddenly an elephant may appear in South India if I am driving in a temple review. Who will do that sensor? Who will understand that sensor? And are we technologically superpower? Definitely not. We are service laborers. To prove my point, I'll tell you one simple data. 2022, the electronics product, one product called the TV, which is an entertainment electronic product. What is the real market size of it is 1.2 trillion Indian rupees. Okay, million, billion, trillion. Now, we have IITs. Not to be ashamed of, but one question is, what is the market share of India? It's just, consumer electronics, one single product called TV. Zero. Is it okay? Why? Because we don't have a design DNA. Because we are technologically superpower, I understand. But the innovation, without innovation, you explore the technology which is invented by somebody. Somebody is flipping your display, which is coming from Korea. Samsung is the number one, it's not India. Samsung, the whole country's area is 2/3 of Tamil Nadu, a single state in India. We have Kashmir to 𝗂𝗂𝗃. There is nobody who can make an LCD panel. Is it what you talk about, the sensors and superpower? And second question, we are adapting so many things because we don't have design DNA. Are we understanding the design? What does it mean? Design is not just heritage, it's not just everything. It's about finding solution through empathy. Where empathy is full, it is in art. Now, the technology and art is totally disconnected in India. When you call about DNA, I want to quote some of the design DNAs. The German called 𝗂𝗲𝗱. How many of you know 𝗂𝗲𝗱 as a movement? Okay, thank you so much. The 𝗂𝗲𝗱 is 1920s, 30s, 40s. Our poet, artist Rabindranath Tagore went to Germany to understand what is 𝗂𝗲𝗱 and started 𝘂𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃, again based on the 𝗂𝗲𝗱. It's a German. Okay, the German, I have primitive colors or whatever. I don't want to get into. But everyone know Audi, product called Audi car, which is out of 𝗂𝗲𝗱. Art and decor. All the British cars like the Jaguar and 𝗂𝗲𝗃, whatever, the Rolls Royce and everything, they have a floating roof because the construction of British construction is entirely different. Even today, the Jaguar cars, Land Rovers are made in the same kind of assembly. And you can ask me why. Now, come this, the two-wheeler. Okay? It's 2024. Honorable Judge comes with our traditional attire. All of us with the Western attire. In our festivals, in Diwali, Pongal, or whatever you call it, we make all Western attire. Our women use our chuditars, whatever. I'm saying the bottom of the pyramid. Now, how my mom never wore anything out of the sari is going to travel in a scooter. Maybe in the scooter, sit like this, while he's going this way. I hold like this. A small brake can eject, the pillion ejection, maybe Biswas can tell me the numbers, particularly in South India, the pillion ejection in thousands. Okay, that's why I told you. The jugaad. So I will come again. What I mean to say is, you have to connect dots. You have design. You have technology. These two, as long as it is disconnected to the art, what I mean to say art is empathy. You talk about commercial vehicle. Okay, if somebody traveling from Nagarkoil, which is the deep south Tamil Nadu, bottom tip, to the capital, Chennai, it is 10 to 12 hours journey. I have a daughter, little girl, who want to go to attend an interview, go to the capital. In between, menstruation happens. It's nature's. It comes without any announcement. Do we have a private space in our blah blah blah? Public space in 2024. The blame is on me also. Now, the scooter, you said three-wheeler India, it's not. In 60s, it is from Aprilia. And finally, 1 minute, we said bus. Is it acceptable or successful in India? You look at share autos in Chennai or in Pune. People, women lower, hundreds of videos on YouTube, they prefer share auto against the bus. Look at the scenario. To get to the bus, I have to walk maybe a half a kilometer, wait until the bus comes. If the bus is full, and the European people grab a book and read for the next turn. They will not stand in the bus. Is it the same in India? Then you mean to say bus is relevant to our India? Who wants to do that? So, share auto will stop anywhere. On the way, I have ticket, but by the way, I found my friend. So I'll say, bus, stop it, they will stop. This is what Indian culture, because I want whatever the X or Y. Bus is a transport material from A to B. Anytime I have to get into the mode of blah, 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 and anytime I change my mind, I will get down. I can't wait for the bus stop. I can't walk until the bus stop. I can't stop when the green lights are there. Because my tendency is different. To prove my point, one simple example, finally I'll tell you. How many of you know kanji, whatever, palaya sadam or kanji or whatever is the diluted rice. All across the country from West Bengal to South India, we eat it. To eat it, it's diluted rice which is soaked overnight. Now I want to eat. If I ask American, they give me fork. Will I be able to eat palaya kanji in fork? I turn to Korean and Chinese, they give me chopstick. How will I eat? So, how will my mom get into the scooter? Do I buy pairs of Levi's jeans for my 86 years old mom to drive into the scooter? Now you understand whether you need a design DNA, leave it to the rest of the people. Thank you.
Thanks, Satya. Thank you so much. I guess you made two very important points there. The first was, DNA is basically genetic information over generations. So it never stops. It never stands still at any point of time. And the second, you said, solutions have to be brought out through empathy and art. And right now in India, technology is quite disconnected from art. So these are the two important things that I carry away from your 7 minutes. And we completely empathize with you about all the examples that you gave, because I think all of us in our rooms, quite frankly, have faced similar situations. Okay, as men, women, sons, husbands, brothers, fathers, we face the situation. Okay, with our mothers, sisters, wives, and daughters, and which is why we've actually gathered together here. Okay, whether we are for the motion or against the motion, but all of us do recognize the fact that we do need to definitely address this issue of whether, as Sudhir interestingly said, whether India needs a design DNA or whether design needs an Indian DNA. We all recognize the fact that we can't do away with the fact of nationhood. We cannot do away with the fact of a certain cultural ethos. We can't do away with the fact of a certain behavioral trait that all of us have. And from that, we'll try to come out with solutions. Thank you, everyone, you still have, minutes in your bank. Anand, if you want to use up your 3 minutes. Vikash, if you want to use up your 2 minutes, this is your last chance. Anand? Yeah, Sudhir, Saurabh, yeah.
Sorry, I don't have, but I'll borrow 1 minute from Anand, dear friend. I just want to talk about one important point. We all have been talking about jugaad, and how jugaad is very non-scientific, very non-structured, doesn't follow the norms. Personally, I feel jugaad is an amazing concept. It's just that it's been seen through lens of a world which doesn't understand. Jugaad is an amazing way of getting around things and getting things done in scenarios where nothing would work. Jugaad is a very, very creative way of looking at things and probably finding renewed and new ways of utilizing things. Just that when we start seeing jugaad from a very scientific way, that okay, jugaad item doesn't follow safety norms and structured norms, and starts equating jugaad with vehicles and stuff like that, is where confusion lies. Jugaad as a process is the most creative way we can teach anybody about how to get things done in a very, very local need that person is facing challenge with. I'm living in a place, small town. I have no access to technology. I have no access to any scientific gyan. We talk about gyan, right? And poor guy has to get things done. And I have seen cases in villages where through Jugaad they have saved lives. There have been numerous cases, and like there's a famous, I don't know, we have seen in the recent Rocket Boys series also, how that rocket, launcher was carried on a bicycle. It's a Jugaad. Ideally, they should have built a vehicle to carry the rocket. But fine, there are no resources. But point is to get things done. So we forget and we start seeing the context through a westernized way of looking at things. Westernized way of, okay, this is wrong because this is Western way. You are doing it wrong but we say it's wrong. What is Western way? Today it's all chaos. Everywhere there is chaos, right? And I think COVID was the time when it taught us that everybody is, if like we call Indians illiterate, I think the whole world was illiterate. There were people jumping out of, running out of New York in their big SUVs. At the same time, India poor, workers in Delhi were going to their hometowns, and the whole media was making a mockery out of it. Same time, there were people in New York leaving their cities and running to their small native things and spreading virus. So, mentally we are all same. It's just that there has been a very westernized way of looking at things, which made us feel, what we are doing is wrong. We should follow the global standards of safety or doing things. What I'm saying is, let's respect what is there and have empathy, as Satya and Sudhir was talking about. Let's have empathy towards the users and what they need, and then fuse it in the right manner to really create a, create an environment in which I think design that meets the Indian DNA. And yeah, that's what I feel.
Sudhir, your counter.
Yeah. So, can you hear me? Hello. Yes. So, I'm talking about Jugaad. Just countering. Sorry. So I feel Jugaad is ingenious. It is creativity. It is knowing your resources. It's knowing your way around resources. Knowing how to get away or make do with things. I think it's brilliant. The point I was making is the moment you put this in an industrial structure or an automobile structure, Jugaad is not frugal engineering. It is not. We should not confuse these two. Jugaad, I'll tell you an example of where the Jugaad is happening on a larger scale. And I wrote one article today morning after I got down from the flight. The biggest Jugaad which I've seen in India is the Swift Desire CNG being used as a taxi car. Have you ever felt that if you have two bags and two people, and mostly the bag will go on the front seat. Because front seat, you don't want to sit on the front seat, it's usually not clean, or the driver has something, so he'll put your bag on that, and he puts a seat belt around it. That's Jugaad. Ingenious, brilliant, you will still make it from one place to another place. But I always keep thinking, the number of taxis we have in India, given Uber, Ola, all that today, and the number of taxis which are there in London. What is the difference? Why can't we really have a taxi design and marketed only for taxi? We like to sit in taxi, we like to share, we want to discuss. Why can't 6, 7, 8, 10 people go in a taxi? We have that. There is that three-wheeler, big three-wheeler tempo in, I've seen that in Jammu, in Ludhiana, and all these areas which does fantastic. Another Jugaad which Satya spoke about is all women sit tangent to the motion on a scooter. We've been doing this for years. I mean, it's not today. Lambretta didn't come. Two-wheeler was not made in India. But we have been living with it. Why? Because men get to drive in the front in the normal direction. They don't have to think about women. Women can face behind or side or wherever they want to face. We are living with this. It's not that we have innovated. I feel that just because we accept Jugaad, we don't move. We don't let innovation happen. And we are happy in our Jugaad. I think we should take pride when we don't have resources and we somehow do it. Jugaad, I think, a single activity Jugaad is fine. I can understand it. If somebody was opening a shop in Ludhiana, wanted to make lassi and didn't have a mixer, he bought a new washing machine and he started that. Fantastic. But imagine everybody is doing that. There is a product requirement of having a large-scale mixie for lassi, which nobody is noticing, right? Or probably to build that will cost more than the washing machine costs. because there is economy of scale. Washing machines is already being made. So my point is, in automobiles, jugaad is a compromise on safety actually. It is a compromise on safety, on economy, on the future of this particular sector for us. We should not confuse it with frugal engineering. I'm not naming this in my article, but I do feel that few of our products are brilliant, not accepted in the market somehow. The new CNG motorcycle launched. It is a frugal engineering, not a lot of money spent on developing it, but it will work. Okay, we have an alternative to three-wheeler launched in the market, not accepted in the market as yet. Why are we still living with three-wheeler? Think about that. In 2024, we're still living with three-wheeler. A lot of countries have banned them already. Right? So I feel that jugaad is what is stopping us from moving ahead. It's stopping people who can really do something to the world just because we sit in this glow of, people look at it, and that's a Western phenomena, by the way. Till Westerners came and said, oh my God, you do jugaad, it's so beautiful. We started looking and saying, wow, this is ingenious. It's not something we were proud of earlier on our own. It's a Western concept. I think we need to put things in perspective.
Maybe it's yet another Western way of actually keeping us back and holding us back. I don't know. I'll not get into that. Let's not create any conspiracy theories here. Anand, please use your bank, and then we'll throw it open to people here and also people online to ask us questions, from each one of you. I think Satya, you have 2 minutes. You exceeded your time. Even I had mine. Anyway, Anand.
Yeah, I think taking cues from other panelists. One thing which I think which is very important to understand while we're discussing this topic is we somehow have a very I agree to because that we have a very diverse culture which somehow becomes a kind of a limitation to adapt to a common DNA to work with. But this diversity brings a kind of chaos which we live with, but that chaos is a very organized chaos, that we are accustomed to. So we should rather, celebrate it. We should rather, take it into account that this is what we are, this is how we are. We want to see things like that, and can we translate that into something which, can become kind of a starting point, for all of us. So that's what I feel.
Very interesting. Thanks, Anand. Yeah, organized chaos. That will again bring jugaad make jugaad go up the ladder, right, Sudhir? When you're organizing chaos. 𝗂𝗲𝗀𝗱, 𝗂𝗲𝗃𝗂𝗃, any of you have anything more to add to the debate before we throw the session open to questions? Yes,
if I may.
𝗂𝗲𝗀 has. Please, 𝗂𝗲𝗀, go ahead.
It's very interesting. I think it's been absolutely fascinating listening to all the points of views, pros and the cons. But a couple of points I want to just kind of add, or rather I want to bring truth to the table, etc. In the 1990s, when Titan was taken over by Tata's, and when they kind of launched themselves in a big way, and they had some excellent marketing going on, and they had some great product designs. One of the products which they came up with was this range of watches called Raga, which were essentially, I would say, the Indian answer to a swatch. They were not plastic, they were metal, better quality in that sense. If you look at it, perceived quality seemed to be better, and had beautiful Indian design, let's say Indian reference at the DNA, the references in terms of the artwork, the kind of designs, etc., was obviously highly inspired by traditional Indian motifs and stuff like that. And that, to me, I thought it was quite striking. But yet, despite the fact that they came out with a beautiful range, extremely reasonably well priced, the initial range of Raga watches actually bombed, failed in the Indian market, right? And in fact, I would The funny thing is that the funny story part of it is that the single largest client group that I know who bought these watches with my wife and her two sisters and the mother. In the four women, they have 35, 40 of these Indian watches who are French and who are not Indian. Titan at that point of time had, in fact, they had a Titan, they had a shop in Paris, but I think that is another thing that fell flat. They didn't really do anything for marketing it. But the fact of the matter remains is that it did come up with a range of watches which were, let's say, should have appealed to the Indian mindset because they're so Indian in their design and their nature, they failed very badly. And so, what is there a lesson in that? That the fact of the matter is, even if you come up with so-called DNA into the design, would the market, Indian market especially, want that, accept that, they like that? Or would they preferably have a car that talks of German engineering or talks of whatever Italian flair or French flair or something else? So I think there is an issue with that. The fact of the matter is that you might want to inculcate a certain design language into the product. What does the customer want? And what does the customer expect? And then coming back to the other aspect, I think what Satya was also mentioning about European brands and histories and legacy. But legacy brands, if the Italian brands, if we refer to the Italian brands about reflecting Italian culture, Alfa Romeo and Lancia, it's not Italian culture. It's the fact that they have an extraordinary legacy of actually motorsport and racing, pre-war and post-war, where they dominated. And that built up a certain legacy, and that became typical of Italy, was motorsports. Though they are not the only motorsporting nation in the world. So was Germany, so was France, so was England. And yet, the Italian cars were seen as motorsport. So it's a legacy. And legacy is not necessarily culture. And I'm sure that sometimes we kind of conflict it. And that's another thing I think we have to be careful of. That what is culture and what is legacy that certain brands have built up and which we think are reflective of that country's, let's say, design DNA. So these are the points I would like to throw to the panelists and others to say, what do they feel about it? Do they believe that at the end of the day, the customer is more important and the customer does not want an Indian DNA? Do you still go ahead and do that? And the other way around, is legacy the same thing as culture?
Interesting points, Gautam. Both points are extremely interesting, and I guess we will take the discussion forward. When we are actually preparing the white paper, all of us here who've actually spoken today, shared their views, and a few others would actually be a part of it. JP, would you like to add anything? Would you like to comment on anything?
Yeah, sure. I mean, to respond to what Gautam is saying, I think that if you really look at brand identity, I mean, there are basically two aspects. There's the legacy of the brand identity, the family who created it, but that brand identity is not living in a neutral ecosystem. It's living within a culture. So you can take two French people, two Indian people, two African people. They're both Indian, French, African, but they can be different at the same time. But they do have some commonalities in that sense. And also, so that's the first point. And the other aspect is that also we have to be careful also, as I pointed out earlier, about the perception of globalization. And because I still think that globalization today is still Western-centric, and I think that precisely one of the aspects of Western culture is they're very good at cultural appropriation. And if you take from what Gautam was saying about basically the customers, if Indian customers would rather have German engineering than, say, Indian engineering, I think this is something which is very common amongst people who have been colonized. Basically how their culture was being diminished by the colonizer. And I think that designers, especially today in the global south, can have a key role in basically raising awareness about cultural richness. I'll give you an example. In France, the most prominent writer is Alexandre Dumas, and he invented the Three Musketeers and the motto "One for all for one." And actually, unbeknownst to a lot of people, Alexandre Dumas is of African descent. And if you take the motto "One for all for one," it is more akin to African wisdom than it is to French culture. So I think this is actually another good example of of cultural appropriation and not giving credit where credit's due. So I think for me as an educator, I think I would be very happy to actually give all the right tools to the future Indian designers to actually carry 𝗂𝗲𝗀𝗱, frugal design, and other aspects of the very rich and diverse Indian culture to the forefront of design. And I think that right now, with the global recession, I think that is actually the ideal time for that. And I think it can play a key role in design for the future.
Very interesting, JP. Thanks a lot for sharing, these insights. I'm sure many of us didn't know that Dumas actually was of African descent. And therefore, now if you go back and understand the characterizations, you can possibly put, a kind of a context to the characters he created in the Three Musketeers. I think we've lost 𝗂𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀's link, right? Is he online?
No, sir, he got disconnected.
Yeah, he got disconnected. I could see trees and leaves behind him. So now we'll throw the session open to questions from the people gathered here. Also, people who've actually joined online. Okay, we've actually got a live link. Hopefully, some people are seeing this online. Yeah. So, any questions? Please go ahead.
So, Ravi sir has joined us.
𝗂𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀 is joined. Boss, do you have any things to add to this? Or what we'll do is we'll come back to you. There are a few people asking questions here. Okay, we have Amitabh, we have Saurabh, Rao Saab also, we have Nirmal. How do I start this alphabetical order? Let's start with Amitabh. Amitabh.
Front to back.
Yeah. By the way, Amitabh, again, ex-colleague from Maruti, he's doing some really, really amazing work with ISRO. Okay, Amitabh is part of an organization called Time Tooth. Sorry, Amitabh, I'm sharing this with them because all of us need to know the kind of stuff they're doing on design. Okay, for landing gear for spacecraft and things like that. Absolutely cutting edge work. Amitabh.
Okay, thanks, Avik. And when I came for this gathering, in my mind I was talking about design for function, which is mostly what I do, or design for form, which I guess a lot of you do here. So, design covers a lot of things, including form, function, and practicality. There's one word which I thought maybe a little more attention: need. And when I talking about cars, people talk about Italian cars. Nobody talked about Japanese cars, but German cars. And when you hear these words, something clicks in your mind, right? And I talk about something totally different. How many of you have heard of K-pop? Or hear K-dramas in your home? And what it does is, a person making a video or a drama in Korea, it's a huge advantage over somebody making a beautiful TV show in Pakistan. And so do we need our designers, do they need an Indian DNA? We need it, I think. We need it because, well, we have our culture, we have our traditions, we have our motives, but for the rest of the world, that gives a huge advantage to all of us. So, I don't know if all of you think the same way, or is there any difference in opinion? Do we need, do we do not need? From a competitiveness perspective, global competitiveness perspective, do India need a design DNA? I think this is one point which was in my mind, and I want to know if any of you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it is needed. The question whether it's needed or not needed. But the problem is, what does it mean? I think that's what we are all grouping about. And I think this one very strong example we had was sometime back when one spacecraft from India went and landed somewhere, right? And then there were these reports saying, pura mission, and it costed less than, there was a movie Americans made about that particular topic. So that definitely is a Indian DNA, but that's not a visible, tangible, cultural DNA. So I'm saying there is a requirement, there is already a frugal engineering, probably is our DNA, but it's not something which is visible, or it's definitely something which will impact your bottom line. The way companies operate, we will probably produce 10 cars in the past. One car will be developed in West. It's not, I don't think it's to do with globalization or technology or things like that. It's just a matter of cost for us. So I think there is a requirement for that DNA. I am not sure if it needs to be a cultural DNA, because then another major question which gets up, and we don't answer that, is there one India culture? It's a huge question. When I'll give you an example. Many years back, Avik told about, I did this branding for ICICI Bank in 1996. And Mr. Kamath had just come back from Malaysia. He was the head of Citibank. And his brief to me was very clear. Yeah, blue coloring karenge because Citibank is blue. But high tech hona chahiye. A blue and high tech. So I realized that what he liked in that Citibank fascia was that it was a vignette, light blue to dark blue. And in that time, 1996, there were no prints available. All this was the hand done. Citibank was the only bank which was printing the fascia and putting this up. There's a company called 3M in US which was doing this. So I realized very quickly that if I do anything which is printed and there's a vignette in that, it will become high tech, because nobody else was doing that. But did I have to use blue? I said no. Let's use a warm color, because we are Indians. We love warm colors. We like our vermilions and oranges and red and ochre and earth red and rust. It's something which is culturally, we are bound to those colors. And even if you see a global map of colors all around, you'll see whole of America is blue, whole of Europe is mostly blue with touches of orange and that. We look at Middle East, it's all green. We look at India, we're all red, orange, right? And move a little east, it becomes red and black and gold. Same in China. So if you go by that philosophy, I said, let's do a red one. And I have a big, I had a big counter from the finance guy saying, red ka matlab hota hai loss. We can use green, but we can't use red. Red matlab loss. I had to go back to them saying, boss, all our Diwali ka bahi khati jo hoti hai, it's all red. Our budget is released in our parliament with wrapped in the red. How can that be lost? And we put it up. First fascia we did was in Jaipur. So one side we had this burgundy to orange, same vignette I used, and one side we had this light blue to dark blue, which is Citibank. And the moment light went up, obviously because it's cultural, and all the board members were Indians, they were looking at the orange burgundy color and saying, wow, what a color. Because we have grown up with that. What does culture mean? Culture is something or DNA, what does DNA actually mean? It is that mother ka khana, maa ka khana, bhale hi bekar banati hai. The world will tell you, ye to jala deti hai, khana isko banana nahi aata. But wo bachche ko jala hua khana acha lagta hai, because he's eaten that from the childhood, right? I think this whole thing of Indian culture is a big debate by itself, even before we get into automobiles and that. What of Indian culture? So I don't think it's the culture, it's the way we do things. So in that ladder I was saying is the process of creating automobiles. How do we do things? We make them cheap. We have this jugaad mentality, we can put things together, we can test them out quickly, we can figure out that if 4 people sit this side, 3 people can sit that side, we can make it. But that's not something which is going to be visible, though the whole world will enjoy the benefit from it.
Thanks, Sudhir. Rao sir, your question.
Good evening. Thanks, sir. It's an extension to what Gautam Sen has said regarding Tata Raga watches. It was, good debate amongst the designers. But what do you think a common Indian customer would value these things? I'm sure it would be different for different segments, but any gut feeling on that?
My feeling is anyone who deals with anyone in marketing will tell you. Today morning I have had a client meeting who's opening a new travel agency. I'm saying, sir, naam chahiye, lekin foreign jaisa naam chahiye. You know why? Because then people will think my companies come from abroad, I'll have an advantage straight away. This happens in and out, I'm telling you, with the largest of clients, biggest of clients. I need to look European, I need to look foreign, because our local people who actually pay the money value that aesthetics more than Indian. And actually, you see, we know this, that the real Indian aesthetic is actually much more expensive. Embellishments, our textiles, our real Indian thing is very expensive. Is that cheap Indian embellishment people are sick of. So it's better than cheaper than that is the European aesthetic, which is minimalism, nothing. Right? We are maximalists as a country. We want more. But give them less, it looks European. And you spend less on that.
The common man, he can't demand. Common man is not supposed to know the design area. It's only for the technocrats and the people. So if we have the empathy of a common man, we can solve their problem. As someone says, need isn't the driver's seat. Okay. And common man will not go and ask, So for example, no one asked for a car to Henry Ford. They were asking a fastest horse, which, metaphorically, fastest horse without eating any gas. It's not poo anyone in the New York seats. But then Henry Ford gave them car, metaphorically, So the common man only wants his problem to be solved.
Saurabh or Nirmal, whoever. Okay, Saurabh, go ahead.
Hello, good evening. Nice debate on, I think you started with it. Coming back to what Sudhir you said and what Amit was trying to say, we are at the epitome of luxury if you go to Rajasthan and all that. So we are opulent with design needs. So does India need a design DNA? Maybe we can create a BMW, so-called, it's a cycle, or the Mercedes, because that's ingrained in our head, and have a Maruti kind of a thought process to the customer. So, do we want to have a Pininfarina to design automotive in an Indian language? I would say yes. But it's not that this 50 people decides for the common man. Common man is in billions. And it is our responsibility, and I don't know, this is the answer which, as you in the profession, we have to do it. Because, we need a stamp of something like European. So I'm working in something where I need, and I'm rushing to Goa to have a stamp of Brand Adams, which he is only a singer, to brand my, brand of hydrogen. He has nothing to do with it, but I need his stamp. So this is the level we have gone to. So this is, I said to Avik that I will be just coming and rushing to airport, which I have to, because this is such a good topic and he has done great work of XLRI and everybody coming together. 25, 30 years in automotive industry, Rao-san has done such great work for Maruti and all. So this is what I think this gathering with the power of thought process and an Indian DNA, which is what we stand for as the, 5,000 years of culture and everything and so much of experience coming in. Having 5 seats maybe or whatever as those things to put it into it, because when we do it, world will use it. Maybe first time in the world it will happen that luxury becomes affordable. So affordable luxury. So those kind of things, I don't know whether that is a kind of a good thought or it's a idiotic thought or whatnot. So some comments over there. Because now this is going to happen. One is a very westernized way of thinking, and say a Porsche or these kind of lines of BMWs and all that, or we create our own lines. And then we say just go behind that and have that Indian DNA. Where it is affordable, technology-wise frugal, but still looks like chic, we can do that.
So I would like either Bikash or Saurabh to take it.
See, I'll tell you one small incident that happened. Around 15 years back, I was traveling to Leh, and just on top of 𝗂𝗲𝗱, I saw a German couple. I think it was a MAN truck, the compact trucks that they use for touring in extreme conditions. So they have come, this couple had come to India, so we stopped. We were in, that time I think a Scorpio. And we stopped there, and we also taking pictures, and this couple, okay, they were enjoying, and we were very impressed with the truck, this massive thing, huge tires. I think you can imagine the MAN trucks, famous. And we asked them, they said, no, we had specially imported this truck to India to tour Himalayas, and we really wanted to enjoy. And they were talking about that, and we were very curious, we loved cars. Just then, these 4 villagers, local guys, they came in the 800 and parked next to the truck. I think the height of the 800 was finishing at the tire level, And this lady, by then we were already talking and discussing, and they knew that we are also automobile guys, and very curious. They said, how come this car has come? It's impossible. They said, no, how come they have come to 𝗂𝗲𝗱, and what are they doing here? They are not come here, they are going to Leh. And they were shocked. I said, most probably by tonight or late tomorrow morning, they will drive throughout the night and they will reach Leh. So that was absolutely, they were shocked. How come a car like this can do this? So the point is, I think the most important point is, we as designers, we have been trained and taught to see things from a very westernized way. Personally, I feel, because I've also done education and I see the strong Western influence, which is fine, which is good to learn. But I think, as 𝗂𝗲𝗱 was talking about, there's a need for deep empathy to understand the Indian user, understand what users need. If the Raga watches, I love Raga watches and I love that example also. I just think, personally, as a designer, I think, if they would have really thought of materials instead of leather, a different kind of material which really goes with Indian skin and Indian weather conditions. We are a different country with different climate. I don't need European concept of watches in India. Maybe I need different. If somebody would have thought from that perspective and designed from that, I think example would have been different. So I think there is strong need to understand and empathize with the user, understand what the users really need. As 𝗂𝗲𝗱 was talking about, we don't need, probably buses is not the right example. Again, these are all adopted concepts. We need a different mobility solution, but who is thinking about it? Yeah, so I think that's the important thing that we need to monitor.
Avik, may I? Sorry, to add that, exactly what he's saying is, not to make a Ferrari, forget about bus, forget about cars, let the road move, no? Like a python. Any point of it just comes in mind suddenly. So it's not about making LCD TV again to beat Samsung. I find a solution to what I want is to need. But Indian needs are different. I have 5 people here in a family, in a small home. Each 5 of them want a different. The kid wants discovery and something else. Why don't we find something else where they will see all their own? If you ask me how, I don't know. Once the phone was like, as he was showing, once the phone was like a dialer and a wire, the meter, and you have to have a trunk call. Somebody imagine, this. Even from the toilet, I can attend my calls. So, I'm saying that innovation, that comes from art. Basically, the design, I was thinking, design DNA, or India, design nation through art. Because art comes with the innovation, not the technology. Technology comes next. Yeah? So, if I want to fold whatever the display, the 𝗂𝗶𝗄𝗃, whatever X or Y material is not available today. So there is someone is pioneering. You understand there was a cell phone with an antenna. Now you are receiving an electromagnetic signal with a plastic case which is painted. So what kind of paint grade, what kind of what kind of plastic grade which will conduct here? Plastic is non-conductor. So somebody is working on that. That doesn't mean that to compete with Samsung. You'll find something which will replace the entire experience of going in a car, a luxury car or whatever. Or avoid that girl from traveling from Niagara going to Chennai 12 hours. Provide something where she can get your certificates from, you say software mein bahut kar raha hum log. So virtually let her get all that, no? It's not that she is compelled to get into the bus and then make something, that way. The need is there.
Very true. I'll just give another example, which I myself experienced when I used to work for Peugeot, the French car maker. So we were doing our rounds around India, trying to understand the Indian market, and we were typically looking at cars. Okay, this car, that car, Maruti, Hyundai, Ford, General Motors, everything. And we went to a transport bank. Okay, and these guys were talking about technology, and they were discussing, my French colleagues, that does India need start-stop? It's so expensive, and so on. And luckily, we were at the 𝗂𝗲𝗱𝗄𝗴. Okay, and I just took them to a Tata 407, and I opened the door. And I said, see inside. Their name was 𝘂𝗲𝗀𝗱𝗄𝗴. I said, look inside. He said, start-stop button. I said, exactly. Because as you were talking about need, what is the need? And do you identify the need, and do you empathize with that LCV driver, that given the sheer rigor of his life, okay, can I just give a start-stop function just to make his life more convenient? And they were amazed. So they stopped asking whether start-stop is needed in India after that. Because they said, if a light commercial vehicle has a start-stop button, so what are we discussing? Okay. Dinman.
So, having heard, you see, providing solutions to needs is not a function of design DNA. It's almost a corollary for any industry. Any industry should be geared towards providing solutions. I mean, that's the purpose of an industry besides making money. It makes money by providing solutions. I think that the design DNA, the DNA, let's understand what is the role for the DNA. And if you pull back a moment, if we see industry itself as a brand, German industry versus Indian industry versus the British industry versus American versus Italian, whatever. It's a certainness which I inject into the brand, which is the DNA. There's a certain Italianness to everything that comes from Italy. Be it automobiles, be it fashion, be it whatever. There's a certain Britishness that the moment we say Britishness, we understand what the person says. Italianness, Britishness, Americanness. What is the Indianness? Now the function of the Indianness, why is the ness required? We are in the business of brands, most of us, not a lot of us are. We buy into brands first, then we buy the product. What do I expect the customer to buy into? What do I expect the customer to identify with? What is in my ness that I project, which I expect the customer to identify with? At the same time, it addresses a need and is a commercial opportunity for the business. I think that to me is the task. So yes, it has to be founded on empathy, but it needs truly understanding. What do we want to be about? Something that we are truly proud of. What is that one single trait which encapsulates what being an Indian is about? It's not just picking up disparate strands from a culture. Culture is certainly a function of the kind of people that we are. But if you were to think of Indian as one single guy, and this has to be done, right? What is that Indianness? What is that? If Germany is about, let's say, solidity, if Japan's about being kind in terms of resources or whatever, what is being Indian about? And said in a way which doesn't piss the customer off. Nano is a perfect example. Great proposition, but it's about how you say it, right? So how do we define our Indianness, how do we define our DNA, and how do we express it in a way that's acceptable, desirable, and therefore becomes a business proposition, a sustainable one, right? Making something cheaper, making something which addresses an immediate need will create a business, but not necessarily a sustainable one.
True, very true.
Right?
You're right, you're absolutely right. Ben, sir.
I wanted to say something else, but now the discussion has come to this, so this is more appropriate. So creating something new, and I heard the word injecting the culture into the product. Injecting the product into the culture is something which you will do now. But those products, the culture wasn't injected. The products evolved out of that culture. Right? And we don't have time now to take an existing product and start injecting a culture into it, we'll mess it up completely. So, and that's where the needs come in. For example, when Maruti was deciding what car to introduce in India, it didn't go around asking people what kind of car do you want. Yeah, everyone wanted a big car which would give about 50 kilometers per liter, which would cost at that time 20,000 rupees, which you could park, hundreds of cars could be driving on the road, you could park outside your office, anywhere. But finding out the real need was actually finding out what kind of parking space did the person have at home. How much of his salary would he be willing to spend on that? What was his office trip? What was his family trip? What was the frequency of family trips? What was the size of his family? That decided that this car will be the need. And when this car came to be the need, people scoffed. Initially. But the thought behind the process was such that the car worked. And I'll give you examples, some examples. We talked about Jugaad. Jugaad is Jugaad plus. You run a Jugaad through a QFD. That becomes innovation. And that becomes sustainable innovation. Our problem is we look down upon Jugaad is because we haven't standardized. Having spent a lot of time with Japanese vendors, you find that innovation in Japan is simply Jugaad plus it's standardized. I'll give you an example of the place where I stayed in the hostel. We would give our keys there, come back, pick up the key. There were pigeonholes for the keys. If you had a mail, like any hotel in those days, your mail would be there, they would give you. So I got a parcel one day. The parcel won't fit into that, obviously. The clerk told me, wait, there's a parcel for you. He went, he got a parcel. The next time it happened, the shift had changed. But the reception clerk told me there's a parcel for you. Wait. So I asked him, how did you know there was a parcel for me? There was no limit switch there. There was no micro switch there. There was no computer there. There was nothing, no slip written down there. He said, all we have done is we've standardized. All keys are put in key side in, with the handle side out. If there's a parcel for someone, we put it at this location and we reverse that. So that is Jugaad. But it is backed by an SOP. And that SOP has gone through a QFD process, which has an FMEA behind it. So nothing can go wrong. But we get stuck when we try to take an existing product and then we try to make it suitable for that customer. That's not going to work. And that's where sometimes the design ladder has limitations. Once you're on a ladder, you can go only in one direction. You can't shift laterally from that. So sometimes when something new comes up, need to seriously find out if it's time to change ladders or not. I worked with cycle suppliers in Ludhiana. Process innovation at a level which you can't even dream of. The best of engineers can't think of those processes. All they lacked was the SOP. Take that to a QFD. That's innovation. Productivity best. Ludhiana is the biggest cycle producer in the world. No one can compete with those kind of people in pricing. So that's what we need to be looking at. Something like what you said about maybe look at moving roads. Who knows that?
Thanks for sharing this, man, sir. Really interesting. Arvind, I'm just asking this question to the panel with all the various things discussed as a consumer, not as a designer. I am not. I'm thinking of buying a new car. The key thing to me is I worry about the future and this environmental impact, sustainability, all of that. That is what future products need to be designed for as a global problem, not an Indian one. Our Indian culture has so many rich use cases and examples of environmental friendly living. And if you compare, take European minimalism and all, can we not come up with something which the future, the world needs as having Indian ideas, call it DNA, call it whatever, with some very great things the Japanese and the European minimalism have done to really impact the world, because we need it. If you talked about needs, forget it, consumers need. What does the world need? Really something if we can invest all of these thoughts into the sustainable, circular economy, whatever is there, I think we have a chance to impact globally. That's what I'm just saying as a consumer, is what I've heard being said with whatever was the jargon. I think the opportunity is there at a world stage for us to think smartly, call it frugal, call it, as you said, we have the skills. We have an ethos also which is very environmental friendly in reuse, recycle, so many ways of the practices we have of living in the villages, etc. Can we not do more?
Yeah, I think so. Right now, to be honest, if you look at, like, we have been talking about this whole DNA, and I think there are multiple facets of this whole DNA that we are talking about, right? One is DNA as a pure aesthetic, like, view of it, right? Like what India DNA means. There's a DNA from a design as a process, right? Like, how do you go and solve problem? Who do you solve it for, right? What entity do you bring in, and how do you make sure that you're solving the right thing for the right people? So I think keeping all these things in mind, like till now, yes, like even Jugaad is part of it, right? Like, but and as Saurav talked about it, and like even Sudhir talked about it, I think yes, it is. These are things that are today we sometimes just get stuck with one or the two things that we are trying to do. We either just do some Jugaad, or maybe at times we just do some aesthetic work on top of something which is already there. But I think, like, looking beyond all these things and getting to a place where we can own up and really solve problems, and solve problems from thinking not just, oh, let's just build cheap, right? Because I think another understanding which has been there for like even for us, like building products for some time now on the two-wheelers, is that I think there's a like a misnomer of like India wants cheap products, right? Like, no, India wants great value products. You provide great value, and I think people will pay for what they are able to get out of it. Like, and that I think is what I would say that we should get good at in terms of building great valued products, which can help for the kind of consumers that we have in India, as well as globally. Like, everyone would like to have great value products, which means that whatever you're getting is at something that you can immediately look at and be like, oh, just makes sense, right? It is not something that I have to like spend a fortune on. And I think thinking about that is one of the things in which obviously the circular economy part of it, the sustainability part of it, all of things then come in if you are really trying to think from a pure value-based approach, and that's something that.
So before Anand, I'll just give you one great example that I had in my own experience when I used to work with the tire industry. Now in Europe, okay, especially in countries like Scandinavia, Germany, where it snows, okay, or the winter is severe, you got something called a summer tire and a winter tire. So every winter you need to switch to winter tires, okay, because that is the regulation. Okay, and if they catch you using a summer tire, massive fines. So what Germans would typically do is they would actually, and it was a big business to actually have warehouses to store either your summer tires or your winter tires. People were making lots of money on that. In comes a new brand from Korea, Hankook. Okay? And they think, why should we have summer tires and winter tires? Why can't we have this new concept called an all-weather tire? So, and that is what really design innovation is. And it's got all the stages. Okay? And Hankook launched this concept called the all-weather tire in Europe. And in a few years, they became an absolute sensation. Because they got all the regulations, they got all the certifications. It's not like they were cutting any corners. That's again very important. As Ben sir said, Jugaad into an SOP is innovation. Okay, so they got the SOP right, they got the regulations right, and now they've spawned this new category called all-weather tires in Europe, and the customer is happy, the automobile companies are happy, the only guys who are unhappy are the warehouse owners. Anand.
I think, as sir rightly mentioned, that the Europeans have, taken minimalism to that level where their sustainability has come into, such a good role play. So we also had ways to do things which could minimize, those factors, and we could have better sustainability. But minimalism, the same word has different meaning in different regions. So for Japan, the minimalism operates at a different level. For Europe, it operates at a different level. For us as Indians, it operates at a different level. So in the rush of things, I think the design somewhat in India has become to do something more. Rather, it is to do less. So I think we just need to take cues from, what we've been doing in the past and then, create the new legacy through that. So I think that could be the way forward.
Interesting. Paddy?
Yeah, okay. I know our esteemed panel has lots of marketing and design gurus, but allow me to indulge a little. India actually has a very strong design DNA. Do we really market it? Do we really put the focus on bringing this out is where I think we are strongly deficient. Not just deficient, strongly deficient. Allow me to take two examples of industries that we created in India in the last decade that are world-class on design. I think the first is, look at quick commerce. Can any other nation boast of a 50 billion or a $75 billion industry getting created in 5 years? Not with jugaad, but with a very strong focus on what you guys are debating, design, right? So that's the first example. It's a different thought that one's bringing. The second is look at what we've done in software. While we are known as the software capital of the world, we still don't have a very large product company that can boast of let's just say, a strong design. I mean, we process billions of transactions a day on, software in banks in India, hundreds of millions per second without any error. But we haven't been able to take this design to the world. So again, just bringing out a different point, India has a very strong design DNA, but we are very poor marketers.
I couldn't agree more with you, Paddy, on that we've traditionally anyway been very, very poor marketers. Okay, and that's across all aspects of life. That's also across all aspects of our achievements. So I guess that's why we need business schools of the quality of an XLRI to teach us better marketing. So I would close the debate today because of the sheer paucity of time, or we could actually go on and on. This is evolving into more of a Bengali Adda session, and that is quite discomforting. So I would now thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your questions. I would now request Professor Rajkumar, the Associate Dean, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening. Wonderful learning for me, because I am a services marketing professor. And one of the sessions that I take is on service-scape designs. And I was taking a session for L&T. And I asked them, are you really proud of your Terminal 2 design? And they said, no sir, that's a wonderful place in Mumbai. Then I asked them, will my 78-year-old mother be able to negotiate that place all alone? What does automobile design mean to me? Can my mother enter a car with her arthritic knee with dignity? Right? So, after having listened to this esteemed panel out here, yeah, we do need an Indian DNA, right? We do need, because the needs of Indians have so far been molded by what we can give you, not what you need. Right? So it's always a product from elsewhere. Come on, this will solve your problem. Right? We never go back to that person and ask him, what is your problem? Can I develop a product for that? So that should be, I think, the biggest takeaway. I'd like to thank the esteemed panel for the wonderful discussions out here. I think a big hand to all. I'd like to thank Dr. Patra, who came for a very brief amount of time. Justice Banerjee, Mr. Rao, Avik, single-handedly cajoled us, threatened us, sat on our heads, right? And I don't think we could have done this without you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Rajkumar. Now I request Father 𝗂𝗶𝗃, to formally felicitate each of the speakers with the stole and a little memento. Thank you, Father. Yes, if you could all just go out. Anand Sharma. Anand, thank you so much. Thank you so very much. Father 𝗂𝗶𝗃 has promised to visit Studio 34 at the earliest. Satya, you've been your usual fiery self, which is awesome. Saurabh, thank you so much, Saurabh, for taking time out. I know you guys have lots of seriously important things to do with the Japanese visitors, but spending the evening with us, thanks a lot. Vikash, thank you so much for taking time out for this. Sudhir, can't thank you enough. It's always wonderful to hear you, to have you, discuss. If you could all, have a group photograph now.